And breaking today, Iran says the Strait of Hormuz has now once again been closed. Iran's Central Military Command says the move comes over Israel's continuing strikes in Lebanon. Israel has intensified its assault on Hezbollah targets in the southern part of the country in recent days, with reports of at least 16 people killed today alone. That is according to the Lebanese Civil Defense. Now, all of this comes as the United States and Iranian envoys make their way to Switzerland to try and finalize that fragile peace deal. CBC's Anna Cunningham is tracking this story for us from London. So there's been a lot of movement on this story, Anna, in the last couple of hours. Bring us up to speed. Where are we now?
Well, Natasha, at the moment, it's not clear if those talks in Geneva, Switzerland have started. And it would certainly seem that if they do go ahead, the focus has rapidly shifted because, as you said, Iran says it's closed the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, we're less than a week since the US President Donald Trump declared a deal was done. He said, let the oil flow. And just days since we saw that virtual signing of the Memorandum of Understanding. Now, let's look at that live view of traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. This is where Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, says the key waterway is now closed to all vessels. So all of these boats, tankers, those container vessels that you see, they have been stuck there for more than 100 days. Iran is now warning any approaching vessels will risk their own security, it says. And the reason it's doing this, it says it's citing Israeli actions in Lebanon for the move and US violations of ceasefire commitments. Look, Natasha, the US Vice President J.D. Vance, he is saying that Steve Witkoff, the US President's special envoy, is on the ground in Switzerland, along with Jared Kushner, President Trump's son, ready for those talks. But we are hearing from Iran that their delegation have only just left Tehran for Geneva. So I think at the moment, they are likely to want to refocus talks directly on Lebanon.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is the push behind Iran's move?
We have seen an escalation in fighting between the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah and Israel, particularly in southern Lebanon. Let's just show you some images that we had in today. Israeli strikes hitting the city of Nabatea. Large plumes of smoke were seen from there. The Israeli military says it did this in response to Hezbollah firing at Israeli forces overnight. But it wasn't just today. Yesterday, there were heavy exchanges of fire between both sides. We heard from Lebanon's health ministry saying 47 people were killed and nearly 100 injured. The Israeli military said it was responding to the killing of 4 Israeli soldiers in a Hezbollah ambush. Look, it all matters at the moment because of what Iran is saying about Lebanon. It says that's a key part of its deal with the US. Natasha.
So how is the US responding to all of this?
We have had a statement from the US Central Command. I'll just go through some of what it says. It says the commercial ship traffic in the Strait of Hormuz increased June 20th today. It says US forces are still operating to support freedom of navigation. It also says 55 merchant ships have gone through the strait today with more than 17 million barrels of oil moved. And it does say that US forces remain present and vigilant. Interestingly, we've also heard from J.D. Vance, who told Fox News that he sees no evidence of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Natasha.
CBC's Anna Cunningham in London. Thank you, Anna. Okay, this is our top story. So let's go to Sajan Gohel, who's joining us from London for more analysis. He, of course, is the International Security Director at the Asia Pacific Foundation. Sajan, let's talk about where things stand right now, because a lot has changed within the last couple of hours, as I was speaking to Anna about. We now know that an American delegation is already in Switzerland and the Iranians are about to go there. What has happened? Why is Iran now ready to head over to Switzerland?
Well, keep in mind, Natasha, that Iran could also be posturing as a form of a negotiating tactic, because the purpose in Geneva. It's part of the 60-day negotiation window to deal with unresolved big issues. That was primarily to be about Iran's nuclear program, the enriched uranium stockpile, inspection, sanctions, relief, and Iran's frozen assets. What's happening is that Iran now wants to bring in the Lebanon issue as part of that, and also use the Strait of Hormuz as a repeated tool in many ways to say that they can cause disruption if they want to.
The Strait of Hormuz really sort of kicked off this chain of events today. So we heard from the Iranian regime through the state media saying that the military command guard has closed down the Strait of Hormuz. Then we heard from U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance speaking to Fox News saying, no, as far as we can tell, it's not closed. What's your best sense of what's going on here?
I think this is another reflection over the fact that there is often a disconnect between both sides, and that often what is sometimes said in the media or to the media isn't as part of that tactic to try and control the narrative. I think if you boil this down, Natasha, the war exposed just how vulnerable the global economy remains to disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. And as we know, roughly a fifth of global oil and a significant portion of liquefied natural gas that flows through the corridor. Now, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz was arguably one of Iran's capability assets, and neither U.S. air power or Israeli military operations could actually neutralize that. So President Trump concluded that a partially weakened Iran, if we got to that stage, is more tolerable than a Strait of Hormuz that is closed. So Iran, I think, knows this, and they utilize this now to their advantage. They, in many ways, weaponize this.
So the Pakistani government, who of course mediated the Memorandum of Understanding, which theoretically both parties have signed off on, they say that interim talks are going to begin again, or going to actually start in Switzerland tomorrow. What do you anticipate is going to happen during those meetings?
I think what's curious about that, Natasha, is that Pakistan has definitely made a big point that it was involved in these negotiations, but then it seems that the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, isn't intending to go to Switzerland to be that honest broker and guarantor of these talks itself. So we'll have to see whether these issues that we've been discussing about the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's nuclear weapons program that they have been accused of trying to develop, as well as the Lebanon issue. Lebanon, Natasha, remains that danger point because Iran is linking this deal to an end of Israeli operations against Hezbollah and Lebanon, especially in the south of the country. And while Israel is not formally part of that U.S.-Iran deal, and it's resisting that withdrawal, Iran will continue to utilize that to say that that deal is not being honored, and therefore they can, if they wish, cause further disruption to the Strait of Hormuz.
But this comes, Sajin, just a day after Israel and Hezbollah signed a ceasefire agreement yesterday. And then we at News Network spoke to a reporter in Beirut who said, even though that ceasefire deal has been signed, Israel, she alleged, was still firing into Lebanon. We certainly hear that from the Lebanese government. The Israelis have said they're going to continue their incursion into Lebanon as long as they feel Hezbollah poses a threat. I mean, between these two things, sticking specifically with the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, is that a real thing? Has that materialized in any legitimate way?
Well, signing is one thing, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and they're seeing what's happening on the ground, Natasha. I think what is telling is we are seeing tensions between the Trump administration and the Netanyahu government, where specific members of Netanyahu's cabinet are being criticized by the Trump administration. And there's more criticism over the fact that they feel that Israel's actions are potentially causing that wider disruption to the Iran-US process. But keep in mind, Natasha, that if you look at all of this, this was never a peace treaty. This was a de-escalation bridge at best. In many ways, it maybe stops the immediate war. It might contribute to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, create that 60-day diplomatic channel. But then the real test is whether all parties and those that are involved in the periphery can continue to keep the peace. And as we're discussing, it seems that there are so many challenges in that.
There certainly are. Now, just before I let you go, Sajjan, if you could offer some clarity as to what we should look for tomorrow in terms of, we have this memorandum of understanding that both the United States and Iran signed off on, but then the technical details need to be figured out. So the original MOU had those 14 points. Those have been made public. What's the difference between that and the technical details?
So if you read the 14 points, Natasha, the nuclear provisions in it are vague, but the maritime provisions, specifically to do with the Strait of Hormuz, are highly specific. So the deal repeatedly references reopening shipping, restoring pre-war traffic levels, lifting blockades, restoring oil exports. But when it comes to the nuclear issue, unfortunately, there are a lot of gaps when it comes to addressing that. And also when it comes to Iran wanting aid, reparations, some of these things are going to come into play. And you're going to find again that there is a disconnect between both sides. And one can only hope that that doesn't lead to it falling apart completely, but there's an agreement instead to have a continuing round of discussions in the near future.
Okay. Really great, as always, to get your insight, Sajjan. Sajjan Gohel joining us from London. Thank you.
Pleasure.